I see myself fighting some clients that I just don't feel that we click well. I'm like, oh, but the person was ready to pay. The person was like, yes, send me the payment details. And I said, no. I'm like, am I crazy? I'm like, no, I can say no to that because I also want to like enjoy the journey. And it's not perfect, far from perfect. The journey of, having my business and figured it out, all the decisions. I try as much as possible to go for clients and projects and business decisions that are aligned with the way I want to live. So the lifestyle for me is super important.
Welcome to Career Coaching Secrets, the podcast where we talk with successful career coaches on how they built their success and the hard lessons they learned along the way. My name is Davis Nguyen, and I'm the founder of Purple Circle, where we help career coaches scale their business to $100,000 years, $100,000 months, and even $100,000 weeks. Before Purple Circle, I've grown several 7- and 8-figure career coaching businesses myself, and have been a consultant at 2 career coaching businesses that are doing over $100 million each. Whether you're an established coach or building your practice for the first time, you'll discover the secrets to elevating your coaching business.
Welcome to the Career Coaching Secrets podcast. I'm Kevin. Today we are joined by Juliana Rabbi. She's been a coach for over 6 years. Welcome to the show.
Hey, nice to be here. Thanks for the invitation.
So as we're speaking, before we started recording this podcast, one thing that I am really, really curious about is the origin story, the lore. How did you get started with coaching, and when did you realize it was kind of something that you wanted to turn into a business?
Yeah, for me, it always started thinking about the kind of lifestyle I wanted to have. I never dreamed about having a business, to be honest. It was like one option that I considered at some point, but like I wanted to travel more. That was the thing. That's what motivated me. So I was already working remotely for over 15 years as a recruiter. So my whole career was related to, career candidates, job searching, interviews, resumes, LinkedIn, all of that. So I was always related somehow to career. My background is in psychology. I have a master in HR. So it's all related to career. And I was already working remotely. I had some flexibility, but I wanted to have more flexibility. So back in 2018, I started considering the options that I had to be able to travel more. And one of the options, not the only one, not the first one actually, was starting my own business because I would be able to have more flexibility and work from anywhere in the world that I wanted. So after eliminating all the options, I chose starting my own business. And that was 6 years ago. And here I am.
And one of the things that most coaches talk about, or some common business advice, is like, oh, your ideal client. And so I'm kind of curious, like, how did you kind of decide who you wanted to help? Who is kind of your target audience, I guess?
Yeah, that has changed a lot in the past 6 years, to be honest. Okay, so the niche I work currently, which is mainly leaders and senior level professionals who want to have a more flexible life and land a remote job, or even a hybrid job, was not always my niche. So I niched down to that during the pandemic around 2020. So starting from the beginning, I was very broad at the beginning. I was helping people making career transitions, land a new job, was very vague. And what I realized at that point is that I was receiving more no's than yeses from the clients because they were like, so are you specialized in this specific industry? And I was like, no, but I also can help you with that. And they're like, okay, no, thank you. Or are you specialized in this country? I want a placement in this country. I said, no, but maybe I can also help you. So I realized it was too open, the niche I had. And I tried different niches along the years. But then during the pandemic, I realized that people were finally talking about working remotely, which was something I was doing already for 6 years at that time. And I said, okay, I think I have all it takes to help people to have a more flexible life and bring to the table, like help others to do what I have been doing for many years already. During the pandemic in 2020 was more intentional to give it a try to something that there was a big need in the market. Maybe for the first time in that volume, right? Everybody was suddenly talking about remote work, remote jobs and all of that. And I had already 6 years of experience, which at that time was a lot. Not that many people were working remotely. So first was kind of trial and error to figure it out who my ideal client would be. And in 2020, I was more intentional about it. And was scary, to be honest, because I was like, wow, I don't know how this is going to work. And I was kind of, changing my whole marketing strategy and the language I was using to communicate to the client, niching down my program to specific actions. So it was very scary. And as most of things in life, I had no guarantee it was going to work, right? But now looking back, as 5 years passed, it was the right decision. But yeah, still scary. So I think every time we choose a niche, there is this risk involved, but I don't know how to do it in a different ways. Yeah.
Yeah. I think what's beautiful about that story too is like, I think sometimes in business, we have this, I don't know, there's like this expectation sometimes that we have to nail it right when we first start out, but it's really beautiful how you kind of like eased into it and you just try to figure it out through trial and error and all that too. I think that's pretty amazing.
I think that's how it happens, right? Because if we keep waiting to have 100% clarity and know things perfectly well, it might never happen. So I actually have conversation with friends who are trying to start a business. At least they say they're trying to start a business, but they keep in this stage of dreaming and wondering and thinking, and they don't take action. So, 2 years later, they're still in the same stage. So for me, at least, was a lot of, let me start doing things. Let me start testing out. Let me start making money out of it. Because until you're making money, it's not a business, right? It's a project, a volunteering work, a hobby, whatever. So as I was making money, I could start trying new things, but I never knew completely. And I might still change my niche at some point. So I'm not completely closed about this possibility. Let's see.
Yeah. And one thing that's on top of my mind is like, there's obviously a lot of coaches out on the market. And so based on your experience, what do you feel like the main, I guess we can call it USP, or the main reason why clients choose to work with you, I guess? Like I'm very curious about your thoughts about that.
I ask my clients that. I ask this question because I was also curious, like, why did you choose me? Or even when we go on a sales call, I like to ask this question, right? Out of all the coaches that are out there, why me? What made you, scheduling this call? What made you even considering working with me? And I get some replies that repeats more often, some patterns. One is my energy level. So I get this feedback a lot. Like, I like your energy. I like the way you communicate, the way you express yourself. I also get the feedback that I live what I sell. So they want to land a remote job. They want to live a more flexible life. And then they see that I have been to 62 countries that I live. I travel and work at the same time. I'm a fully nomad, so I don't have a base. So I really live what I'm selling to my clients, right? So I want to multiply people with a flexible lifestyle. So they also see this alignment and they're like, yeah, you actually walk the talk. What you are helping us to achieve, you already achieved, which is completely true. And I also hear about me being very direct, very straight to the point and informal in my way of communicating. And some people like it. So what I take out of those three main things that keep repeating, right, is that the more I show up in the way I am, the more I attract the right people to me. I remember when I start my business, right, back in 2019, and I already started like traveling. I was living in Spain for 15 years. Then I decided to leave Spain and start traveling. And I remember my mom said, but like, if your clients realize that you're moving to one place to the other, they might see you in a different way. Like, they might perceive you as less professional. They might not like it. So maybe you should hide it. And I was like, wow, Mom, should I hide? So I had this idea, when your mom says something, you at least think about it, right? And then I was like, that's not sustainable, right? I don't want to hide my lifestyle. I don't want to pretend I'm always in the same place or whatever. And I decided, it's like, you know what, that's me. That's the choice I'm making for my life, for my career, for my business, and whoever want to work with me. We'll need to embrace that. We need to at least be okay with that. And that shows in the small things. Like, my background is always different because as I move apartments, countries, and all of that, so I always have different backgrounds. I'm very informal also in the way that I dress. So I also say that, like, if you're waiting for a career coach that is all dressed up like in a suit, in a formal way with a fancy shelf of, whatever fancy stuff in the background, it's not me. But as I show up the way I am, because I don't know how to show up in a different way, I ended up attracting people who are or okay with that or actually admire that and that connect with them. So yeah, I'm just being myself in the best way that I can and trying to deliver the results on the top of that.
It's so, I don't know, there's just something about being your authentic self that just attracts, like you said, attracts the right people. And I find it also really funny that moms internationally, like no matter what culture, they always have to get their 2 cents. My mom, like
Right?
sometimes she's like, you should do XYZ in business. I'm like, hey mom, what have you done so far? Not like,
Yes.
she's like, oh yeah. Like it's really funny. Speaking about business, let's move on to the next question. Something I really love hearing, especially from coaches who have been around the block for a while, is hearing their different business models and see what's working for you guys at different stages. If you're comfortable sharing, you mentioned before the podcast that you're looking to scale. And so I'm curious from your perspective, what does scaling look like for you? Is it more clients, higher prices, building systems? Yeah, what's in mind for that?
All of that, actually. More clients, higher services, more systems. Let me just reward a little bit. When I started 6 years ago, now I look back, I was like, wow, I was so amateur, but I mean, that's fine. Right? It was just like so in such a beginner stage of, my business understanding and what I could actually put into the business, the processes, the systems. But I'm happy that I started because I'm here today because I was crazy enough, let's say naive enough to start. I always had coaches since the beginning, like business coaches, mentors to support me. But I started more with basically one-on-one service and more punctual services. So let's say a couple of sessions here and there, a 2 months program, one session, so it was pretty much a one time or a few times intervention. And there was enough demand for that, but obviously the price I was charging for a one-time session or 3 calls was, I don't know, 20, 30 times less than I charge now. And also I realized at some point that the impact I was making in my client was limited because there's just so much I can do in 1 hour, hour and a half with a client, right? So it was more like an internal demand for myself to say, I want to generate more transformation with my clients. So how can I do that? And then I start offering like a program that was a little bit longer, let's say 2 months, and then I changed to 3 months, but was still mainly one-on-one. And it was better in terms of money. So I was charging several times more. The transformation was deeper, obviously, but still then I start having full agenda. I was fully booked. And then I was like, yeah, that's not sustainable because I cannot have more clients. And then I reach already the roof regarding the money I'm making and the impact I'm making, right? So at that time also I start increasing my YouTube channel. I have a YouTube channel. Right now I have over 125 videos because I was like, I also want to keep, like, I care about money, but I care a lot about impact. So I was like, how can I also help people that cannot pay me? And this is a business, so I need to prioritize the ones that can pay me, obviously. But I also want to help others. So the YouTube channel is a way to share free, long-form, deep content. So I start putting more attention into it. I guess it was around that time that I started my newsletter also. So I started diversifying the way that I could share free knowledge. But my agenda was already full. And I was like, that cannot be all of it. So I started, hiding new codes, join new mentoring programs and all of that to diversify more. And the model that I am at the moment is what I call a hybrid program. So it's that's one of the services that I have. So I have a group program with weekly calls, support via Slack and all of that, and a few one-on-one calls. So it's way better than before. And I have a VIP program that clients have way more one-on-one calls. Okay, so this way I'm scaling much more. I can have more people in my programs and I have less one-on-one calls. And I'm trying to figure out what is next. I still have capacity to have more people in the program with this format. But yes, I am in this stage of scaling. And the way I think it's going to look like is improving the processes that I have to be able to automate more things with AI and with my human assistants that I have.
Yeah.
To remove a bit me from the admin tasks and, the day-to-day things that I find boring and I'm not great at. So things that doesn't really require my expertise and that I probably am not great. Delegate more of those things so I can be more into the, let's say, the technical and the strategic part with my clients directly, but also on the business itself. I think this is something that I want to focus now. Feels a bit scary also because it's again like, oh, it's time to make decisions. It's time to, commit. It's time to invest money and, change things. But things are running well. But I know that to grow to the next level, I need to shake things a little bit. That's the stage I am at the moment.
And thank you for sharing like the mess, not I wouldn't call it messy, but the parts that, you're just in the middle of too. I really do appreciate that. And I guess like I wanted to talk about your marketing too, since you've been a coach for 6 years, I guess. Like you mentioned the YouTube channel, but how do people usually find you? What kind of marketing have you tried so far?
LinkedIn is the main channel for me. I would say like around 80%, 80% of my clients come from LinkedIn, definitely. I haven't done paid ads on LinkedIn. Actually, I think I did for like a week. And I was like, no, not working. Too expensive, not anybody coming from it. So I can say that in 6 years, I did 1 week of paid market on LinkedIn. So pretty much everything organic through content creation. So I do post Monday to Friday at the same time for years already. Outreach, engagement with posts and all of that. So LinkedIn is definitely, I would say 80% of my clients, they have some relation with LinkedIn. So they might have found me on LinkedIn and then they also tell me like, oh, I went on Instagram to see if you're real, talking about why they choose me, right? To see if I walk the talk and to see if you're real, to get to know you a bit better. And then they go back on LinkedIn and they contact me back on LinkedIn. So the conversations, the juicy conversations actually happen on LinkedIn. Yeah, around 80% of that. I also get a lot of leads from like public speaking in general. So events, in person or online events that I was a keynote speaker, podcast and all of that. And this is funny because it's something that it's like I take it like planting the seed and then waiting for the flower to come up at some point. Because sometimes people reach out to me and say, hey, I knew you from a podcast interview. And because I have been in so many, I'm always curious. And I'm like, which one? And they mention it. And I'm like, wow, that was 2022. It was like 4 years ago. So as much as I spread my face out there, my message, and that happens also with YouTube, I cannot really control when people will come back to me. But I know that it's like a long-term game and it does work. But where I see results more in a more short-term, let's say, is LinkedIn, but I also approach it as a long-term. So the constance with my content, the approach in the DMs, the engagement with posts, replying to the direct message, all of that pays off. So basically LinkedIn and public speaking in general are the main sources of leads that I have at the moment.
Yeah. It's really interesting how you said people go on different social media to find out different parts of you and stuff. I find that like I'm on YouTube a lot. And so I find that like people find me on YouTube, but when they want to see the behind the scenes of what Kevin's actually real like, again, it's always like Instagram or something like that. So I find it very interesting.
Yeah.
Back to your coaching business, I guess like as you're scaling this, I'm so curious about the intention behind it. Like, where do you want this coaching business to take you in the next few years? Do you have any secret dreams, like big ambitions no one knows about? Like, I'm very curious there.
I didn't change my ambition. So the dream I had in 2018 to be able to travel more, it's still there. So I keep traveling. I mean, I have been traveling for many years already, right? Now it shifts slightly to have more free time because I'm already traveling. So I already reached that goal. Like I leave traveling, I'm, fully flexible, location independent. But I want to have more free time. Yeah, just be able to don't work as much as I work today, still make, even more money than I make today, make more impact with my clients and be able to also don't feel guilty because sometimes I do feel guilty, to be honest. It's like, wow, I won't work on a Wednesday because I want to go to the beach or because I have a friend in town or whatever. And I'm like, yeah, but maybe I should be doing something. I'm my own boss. I have my business. So I still have this guilty thing that comes from time to time, this limiting mindset that I need to be there all the time. It's like, I don't need Or I don't need if I have a system, a team, and all of that allows me to don't be all the time in my business. So the dream now is a slight variation of the goal I had when I started 6 years ago, but I want to have more free time and be able to live the lifestyle that I want. So I like money. Money is very welcome. Money allows me to live the way I want. Money allows me to also make a big impact, which is something that I care about. But for me at least, it's not only money. And I say that because I see myself fighting some clients that I just don't feel that we click well. I'm like, oh, but the person was ready to pay. The person was like, yes, send me the payment details. And I said, no. I'm like, am I crazy? I'm like, no, I can say no to that because I also want to like enjoy the journey. And it's not perfect, far from perfect. The journey of, having my business and figured it out, all the decisions. I try as much as possible to go for clients and projects and business decisions that are aligned with the way I want to live. So the lifestyle for me is super important.
Yeah, and I feel like that's a huge power move to just to be like, yeah, even though you could give me money, like I'm going to say no because it doesn't feel like something just feels off. Maybe it's out of integrity. Maybe it's like you just don't see it working out. So I also appreciate you just humanizing that part of the guilt too. Like when you're talking about oh yeah, my friend's in town. Should I go hang out with them? It's like really interesting. So thank you for bringing that up. Yeah. I do want to move on to the next part. I do want to play a game with you. It's called Good Investment, Bad Investment. And so I'm very curious, what's the best thing that you spent money on for your coaching business and the worst thing that you kind of wished you got your money back from, right?
Best investments would be coaches and mentors. So I had been paying to have proximity, to have high level support from people who are 10 steps, ahead of me since the very beginning, since I was planning to start my business. So having coaches, being part of group mentoring programs, having support has been not cheap, but necessary. Right now, I'm in 3 different mentoring programs. I'm always in at least one because I also get different things from different programs. Yeah. So best investment would be having coaches and mentors through this whole journey, different ones. My needs changed, but I always had at least one coach or mentor. Worst investment, first thing that came to my mind was when I did some paid ads. For example, the one I mentioned about LinkedIn, right? That I did this 1 week paid ads on LinkedIn. And then my credit card, they were charging a lot. I was like, my goodness, what is happening here? And then I was like, no, let's just cancel it. So at that time, I didn't know enough about paid ads to choose the right person to help me and to be able to supervise the way he was handling the paid ads. And that's funny. I don't know if funny is the word, but it's like if I'm delegating something, I'm trusting that the person I'm delegating know more than me. That's the whole point of delegating, right? But there is a minimum level of knowledge that I need to have to make sure that things are, moving in the right direction. And I think this is the part that I missed. So I worked with this guy for, I think, a month or 2. And after that, he was like, no, but things will improve and all of that. I was like, no, look, I already put way too much money here. And then I finished the contract and all of that. So investing into paid ads in a stage that I didn't know enough about this topic, not to do it myself, but to supervise it, to have, a better understanding of it. That was a bad business decision. Costed me money, definitely.
Do you think you'll ever go back to paid ads?
It's on my list. It's on my list because also thinking about scaling, I know this is one of the ways that people go for to get more visibility, to have my name, spread out there for more people. So it works for a lot of people. So it's not like, reinventing the wheel. So if I want to scale, like paid ads is probably one of the ways, but I think I got a bit traumatized with this experience and I haven't found yet. A person that I'm like, okay, clicked with me, or I don't feel I'm ready enough. So I'm still in this question mark what to do with paid ads. But I think it's a path that a lot of successful people, including my mentors, have walked through. So why not give it a try, right? It's tested out already. It haven't worked for me, but probably it will at some point.
Yeah, that's the thing I always wonder, right? Like sometimes we get we start something, like earlier in our career or something like that, and maybe it doesn't work out, but then we kind of know it's like, I'm not saying paid ads is the solution or anything like that, but it's like, ooh, do we go back here or not? And if we do, how do we like navigate this from our bad
Yes.
experience in the past? So I was just very curious about that. Last question for you. If you had to start over tomorrow, let's say you lost everything, knock on wood. And you had to start, not going to happen, but let's say
Go ahead.
If you had to start over tomorrow with 0 followers, 0 clients, but you have all the knowledge that you have right now over the last 6 years, I guess, what would you do in your first 90 days to rebuild your practice up?
I was having a conversation 2 days ago with a friend, and she lost her Instagram account. And she said she's a business coach. And she said that her main source of clients was Instagram. So she kind of had to face that situation. And as we were talking, I was like, wow, that's so scary. But I haven't thought about me. So let me do this exercise now, because it could happen, right? Like losing, I don't know, your main social media source of leads and all of that. So what I would do, I would niche down from the beginning. It took me a good 1.5 to 2 years to niche down into something that worked. But even if I didn't know that my niche would work, I would start niching down to one specific audience, because I know now that you can simply adjust way better what you communicate, the language you use, the solutions you suggest, and all of that. So I would niche down from the beginning, even if I decide to change my niche later on. Niche down would be one thing. I would, again, hire mentors. I would keep hiring mentors, because I don't think I need to figure it out all alone. I don't have a business background. I was an employee way more years than business owner, so I still have a lot to learn. So I would pay to have smarter people around me supporting me this journey. I would do a lot of sales calls instead of just preparing the program and creating a website and making things look fancy and be completely clear about what I'm offering. I would go on sales call, because when I have conversation with people, I understand their pain points. I understand what they're looking for, what they're willing to pay, what they need help with. So by having conversations with my potential needs, I was going to understand, and then I can reiterate and make the adjustments.
Yes.
And all that. I would go to take actions soon. I don't think I took that long to take action at the beginning, but now I would take actions even faster, because it's like, while the business idea is in my head, nothing is happening. It's a dream. It's almost an hallucination, right? I'm speculating, I'm assuming, and that's so dangerous, and that can kill a business actually, because you keep dreaming about it and wondering instead of testing it out. So I would test the minimum viable product. I would, make it very fast into something that I'm charging for, and seeing if people are paying for it, and seeing the transformation and having support on the way to keep improving. So yeah, I think that's what I would do.
I really like your answer about doing the sales calls, and more importantly, the conversation and creating it based off those conversations too. Because I think when I speak to a lot of new coaches, they're just so caught up in trying to figure out the perfect product from the beginning, but it should be like literally a co-creation process with the calls and stuff. So yeah, I really like that answer. Juliana, how can people find and connect with you? What's the best way?
Well, LinkedIn. As I said, I'm there a lot. My second house, LinkedIn, yeah. So I like the platform, has been serving me well. So LinkedIn is one option, right? Juliana Rabbi, Rabbi, like rabbit without the T. I am on Instagram also. If people want some more gossiping, behind the scenes, and a bit more of my travel, it's also Juliana Rabbi. I have my YouTube channel that is also Juliana Rabbi, so it's all everywhere, my name. Yeah, I think those are the main ways. There are some podcasts out there that I was interviewed, but I think LinkedIn, YouTube, my YouTube channel, and Instagram are the main ways to communicate with me.
Yeah. Juliana, I really enjoyed this conversation, because you kind of showed the more human side of a coaching business. Clearly, you have clients. Clearly, you have a successful coaching business, but thank you for just sharing kind of the more human aspect. Oh, maybe I don't have this all figured out. These are the thoughts in my mind. And I like that messy stuff sometimes. It's great. So I appreciate that. I feel like a lot of other coaches who are going through very similar situations will feel understood and heard too. So thank you for that. I do appreciate that.
I was happy to share that, to bring a bit of the reality. It's great to have my business, but it's not perfect. But here I am.
Thank you for coming on to the podcast.
That's it for this episode of Career Coaching Secrets. If you enjoyed this conversation, you can subscribe on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you're listening to this episode to catch future episodes. This podcast was brought to you by Purple Circle, where we help career coaches scale their business to $100,000 years, $100,000 months, or even $100,000 weeks, all without burning out and making sure that you're making the impact and having the life that you want. To learn more about our community and how we can help you, visit joinpurplecircle.com.